She's craving a personal sort of saving, not like a generic sort of saving. Her soul was like somewhere cold, like in the Arctic. His was just like literally missing. We all need to like do yoga or something before we get through this. If you were trying to guess the emoji clues for this week's videos, here's the one that pertained to this video. Make sure to follow me on my Instagram where I'll be posting more clues like this in the future. I hope you weren't tricked, and I hope this video is a treat. Hi everyone, welcome to this video. On my channel, I analyze song lyrics very in depth through the lens of literary analysis. Welcome to spooky season week on my channel. The songs I'll be doing this week aren't like scary or spooky in the literal sense, but their subject matter, the contents of the songs are about heavier emotions that are kind of frightening to experience and to express. In today's video, we're doing Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, featuring Paul McCoy from the band 12 Stones. As a quick disclaimer before we get started, everything presented in this video is my own personal opinion. Music is very subjective, so everyone's gonna have their own take on it. I always encourage you guys to leave your perspective down below. This song is a bit of a throwback. It came out in 2003 and it was part of Evanescence's debut album called Fallen. I'm really stoked for this. I really love this song. I was probably a little bit too young when I listened to it, and I obviously did not know what it meant at all. The reason I picked this song to do for Spooky Season Week is because it's about the feeling of intense darkness at a very intense level, like within your soul, which is the purest, innermost part of your being. It's about dependence in relationships and how depending on someone maybe is not the best thing. When the song title says bring me back to life, this is all metaphorical. No one is actually literally dead, but the protagonist feels emotionally dead, maybe spiritually dead, which is very intense and very frightening. What's a little bit haunting is that the protagonist has awareness of this, right? They're aware that they're metaphorically dead and they're aware that they need help. But as we're gonna find out, maybe the person that they're depending on isn't gonna be able to help them. In my analyses, I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. Let's get started with verse 1. Verse 1 is just the female protagonist, so Amy Lee's vocals. How can you see into my eyes like open doors, leading you down into my core where I've become so numb, without a soul, my spirit's sleeping somewhere cold until you find it there and lead it back home. We're given a lot of information about the protagonist's internal state in this first verse. I believe they're addressing their romantic partner. It could be a platonic relationship as well, but I feel like the dependence they have is more reminiscent of a romantic dynamic, but again, open to your interpretation. The female protagonist is realizing that the male protagonist can really like see them for who they are, read them on a very internal, intimate level. At least she thinks so. That's her perception. She says, how can you see into my eyes like open doors? There is a saying that eyes are the windows to your soul. It depends on person to person, but eyes can be very revealing about a person's internal state, about their general vibe, maybe if they're lying or not. You can also probably tell what color eyeliner they're wearing, which is a very fun thing to note. Eyes can be mysterious, right? Maybe it's not easy to read everyone, not everyone's an open book. However, the female protagonist is saying that this male protagonist can read her eyes very easily. This connotes a feeling of surprise. Perhaps no one else has been able to read her or understand her like he has. The image of an open door is really significant. What if for this female protagonist, what if that door had always been locked? What if that key was hidden and there was a map to that key so no one could know her on an intimate level? What if that male protagonist found that treasure map, found the key, brought the key to the right door, turned the key, and then opened the door? If that's the sort of thing that has happened here, which I'm inclined to believe it is, just due to the intimate nature of everything, then this female protagonist is shook that this male protagonist has the ability to read her like this. leading you to my core where I've become so numb. The open doors, which are her eyes, are allowing him to see down into her core, into her soul. I talk about the concept of a soul a lot on my channel. I will link the videos where I discuss it more in depth in the song Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey, Coney Island by Taylor Swift, and also Ivy by Taylor Swift. But really briefly, I personally view a soul as the purest, innermost part of your being. It's very important. It's kind of like your spiritual identity. The reason I'm saying this is because the fact that she mentions her soul is very concerning to me. If there are issues with your soul, like there was in the song Coney Island by Taylor Swift and Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey, then that is like an existential identity issue. She's saying that her whole existence has become numb. That's very terrifying, because if you feel sad or angry, like that sucks, but you're feeling feelings, right? She's not even feeling sadness or anger. She is just literally feeling nothing, metaphorically sleeping, dormant. My spirit sleeping somewhere cold until you find it and lead it back home. I am happy at least that she recognizes this. She has awareness of her emotional, internal, spiritual state. She says her spirit is sleeping somewhere cold. So a spirit and your soul to me are kind of one and the same. Maybe like connotation wise, a soul is more like stable and like, I don't know, wiser. And your spirit is also wise, but I think of a spirit as being able to like, I don't know, float around more than a soul. I just feel like the soul is more stable, just connotation wise, but here I think they're kind of one and the same. I would be interested to hear your thoughts down below about that. But a spirit I view as kind of being alive, right? And like sparkling and cute and stuff. However, I feel like someone's spirit shouldn't really be sleeping, or if they are, they shouldn't be sleeping somewhere cold. The word cold connotes a feeling of isolation. I also think about not being safe. If someone is out in the cold for too long, that's not healthy. That could become fatal. Heat is life-sustaining, but the cold is the opposite of that. Her spirit is being aligned with being cold. She is having issues at a very deep, emotional, existential, spiritual level until you find it there and lead it back home. So she is telling this to the male protagonist, and she is saying, you need to do this. You need to help me. You need to find my spirit, find where it is, and bring it back home to me. Home being her soul, a warmer place, a more life-sustaining place, right? Chorus. The chorus contains vocals from both Amy and Paul, so both the female and male protagonists. I'm just gonna say Amy and Paul right now because saying the word protagonist this many times is probably gonna annoy everyone, myself included. I'm not saying that these actual singers had this experience, I'm just doing this for simplicity's sake. Okay, so chorus. Paul, wake me up. Amy, wake me up inside. Paul, I can't wake up. Amy, wake me up inside. Paul, save me. Do you see what's going on here? Amy, call my name and save me from the dark. Paul, wake me up. Then we have Amy, bid my blood to run. Paul is saying, I can't wake up. Amy is saying, before I come undone. Paul, save me. Then Amy says, save me from the nothing I've become. Before I go any further, I want to state that it is possible to interpret this as it being completely the female protagonist's internal journey that we're discussing, and the male protagonist is just kind of echoing her thoughts. Perhaps he is reinforcing her own emotions. It's kind of like the background thoughts in her own mind. However, I am personally interpreting it as being about two people, especially because there's a lyric later on where the female protagonist talks about being without their love, being frozen without their touch, and when she says when she got to know that they exist, they can't be without them. That's why I'm inclined to believe that this is like about two separate people. So what we learn from this chorus is that both people are metaphorically, spiritually asleep. I think the female protagonist is not aware that the male protagonist also like is not okay. So she's depending on someone that can't like deliver and follow through to help her. I'm not saying that anyone is at fault here. Like, I'm not blaming the male protagonist. I'm sure he's in a very terrifying and painful state as well. What I'm saying is that it's risky to depend on other people to heal your soul because you don't know what the contents of their soul is, right? It's just a situation where I'm empathizing with both parties. Like, it literally sucks. It's emotionally terrifying. So let's break this down. The male protagonist says, wake me up. The female protagonist is wake me up inside. So we are told explicitly that this is an internal sort of sleep that is the problem. We have repetition of wake me up and wake me up inside. I always say that repetition signifies significance. I think it's really important when certain words or phrases are repeated. It draws your attention to it more and shows that it's very important within the context of the song. They are in a sort of sleep that they can't wake themselves up, right? So a knowing alarm is not gonna help. They need someone to literally, metaphorically literally shake them awake, right? They need someone to like drag them out of bed, not pour, but like, I don't know, do this with water on their face and wake them up properly. They are at the point where they've both seem to have lost the ability to wake themselves up internally. It's very striking to me when the male protagonist says save me, because it shows me that he is in a very deep emotional or spiritual distress as well. I don't know if he's asking the female protagonist for help explicitly or if it's just a general, like literally anyone who hears this save me sort of thing. I don't believe that they're having a conversation about this. I think that these are both just their thought processes. If anything, actually, yeah, I would say that the female protagonist may be saying a lot of these things to the male protagonist, but I don't think he's saying anything to her because I don't think he wants to like scare her and be like, actually, I'm also not okay, so I literally can't help you. Yeah. Call my name and save me from the dark. The phrase call my name is very interesting and it's very emotional. When someone says your name, it can be a very intimate thing if it's coming from someone you love and someone you trust. So she's saying, I need you to see me for me. I need you to like literally identify me. I need you to express that you see me. Please say my name and wake me up. She is craving a personal sort of saving, not like a generic sort of saving. And I'm extrapolating a little bit here, but perhaps she craves intimacy. Maybe intimacy and love will wake her up. Bid my blood to run before I come undone. So when she's asking her blood to run, it means that her blood is almost stopped running, which means that she would be dead, metaphorically. She knows that she's getting close, right? She's like, I need something to get my metaphorical blood flowing. I need something to sustain my life, right? The imagery here is a little bit more intense. It's much more scientific. It's really letting you know that this is a problem, right? This is an emotional sort of problem or a spiritual sort of problem, but the fact that the blood is being referred to shows us the dire nature of everything. Like, this is a big deal. It's kind of when emotional feelings start to manifest physically. That's the sort of vibe I'm getting here. Before I come undone, before she loses everything, before she gets past the point of no return, save me from the nothing I've become. The female protagonist feels like a nothing, which is horrible. That's very sad. But they say from the nothing that I've become. So it's like a change has recently occurred for the protagonist. She wasn't always like this. It sounds like the protagonist needs to be healed from something that changed her. And then the male protagonist all this time is echoing similar sentiments, right? He seems to be in a very similar spiritual, emotional position. It's like they're both having this experience and it's like they're parallel to one another in a way. They're both kind of suffering in silence. I think the male protagonist is aware of the female protagonist's state, but I don't think that she knows about him. Verse 2. This is sung just by the female protagonist. Now that I know what I'm without, you can't just leave me. Breathe into me and make me real. Bring me to life. It sounds like she has gotten to know the male protagonist and sees something of value within him and she doesn't want to lose him. That's what I'm thinking when I read, now that I know what I'm without, you can't just leave me. She needs him to stay longer so she can heal. I think that's what she thinks will heal her. His presence, his love maybe, the intimacy they share. Breathe into me and make me real. This is really, really sad. This is such a dark place to be in. When she says, breathe into me, it's like she's a lifeless body, right? She needs the breath of another person to exist. When she says to make her real, that's very concerning as well. It's kind of like she's dissociated so far that she simply does not exist anymore. Remembering the word numb from earlier, you can say that maybe the protagonist feels really dissociated from herself and her identity and perhaps from the real world. Bring me to life. She is really pleading for help here. The fact that she's at the point emotionally or spiritually where she needs breath breathed into her shows us that this feeling she's been in has progressed. I would assume she's been feeling like this for a long time. Now it's like the last inning or whatever. Is that a thing? Not like a sports person, but I feel like a sports metaphor would like really drive the point home here. So pretend I said a sports metaphor. Feel free to comment one down below. And we have repetition of the chorus. Now we're at the bridge. This is a bridge. It's gonna take us to the thesis statement of the song. Both parties sing this, however, the male protagonist only has one line, the second line. Bring me to life. The male protagonist sings, I've been living a lie. There's nothing inside. OMG, I'm shook. Bring me to life. Frozen inside without your touch. This is not good. Without your love, darling. Only you are the life among the dead. Okay. 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 All right, let's break this down. Repetition of Bring Me to Life. Let's talk about the male protagonist's lyric in the bridge. He says, I've been living a lie, there's nothing inside. There's two ways to interpret this, in my opinion. He could be living a lie to the outside world, as in he hasn't told anyone at all about his internal state, or actually, there's three ways to interpret this. So he hasn't let on to anyone in the outside world about his internal state. Maybe he hasn't even allowed himself to realize his internal state as a means of self-preservation to protect himself. Or he knows his internal state, maybe his close friends know, but he hasn't told the female protagonist, which I would argue is a very important person to know this because she's like depending on him. However, he could have not told her to protect her as well. So there's different ways to look at this. I'm sure there's more than what I said. I'm just giving you my own ideas here. Since he says that he's living a lie, I feel like he's been keeping information that's important from people, keeping information that would be very necessary for certain people to know. So I do sense that he feels guilty about this, right? I think it would be important for the female protagonist to be aware of his situation. Again, I'm not blaming anyone, but it's just like, it is what it is. This dynamic is not healthy for either person. The rest of the bridge is sung by the female protagonist, so Bring Me to Life is repeated. Then she says, frozen inside without your touch, without your love, darling. Darling is a term of endearment, so I would assume they're in a romantic sort of relationship. So she's frozen inside. This is a progression because first her spirit was somewhere cold and now it's frozen. So there's been a progression. It's much more cold now. It's frozen. The situation is becoming more dire. Like, this is not chill. Like, literally it is chill because it's frozen, but like, you know what I mean. It's interesting that she says without your touch, because when you touch someone, you're touching their outside, but her inside is frozen. So it sounds like she just needs love, some intimacy to heal her. You know, someone touching her in like a loving way would start to alter and heal her inside, her soul as well. Without your love. Remember earlier I said that it sounds like the protagonist hasn't always been like this. It's like a recent change that she's experienced. I wonder if it's due to things in her life, like life circumstances, or just her own belief systems about herself, or if she had her heart broken, because she's relying on a romantic partner right now to help her. Sometimes that's okay, right? Sometimes if it's the right person, that's a beautiful thing. But a lot of times that's not the case. It's a very dangerous and risky situation to be in. I'm just extrapolating, but I really do wonder what caused her to get into this position in the first place, because she's saying that the antidote to her frozen soul landscape is love. Love is gonna heal her. I wonder if she could benefit more from self-love. I don't know, just a thought, just throwing out some thoughts. Of course, like, love from a person that you care about is also gonna be healing. But I also understand that it's very possible to be in a place where, you know, you're not capable of having self-love. I think maybe that's the position the protagonist is in right now. There's definitely been a progression since everything's frozen, and I am concerned. Someone make her some metaphorical hot chocolate and make her sit by a metaphorical fireplace, okay? She is metaphorically freezing, okay? Only you are the life among the dead. Okay. This is a very direct and bold statement. This is kind of dramatic. I'm not saying that she doesn't feel like this. I think she does feel like this, but there is like a progression in the things she's saying. Things are getting more intense, they're getting more dramatic. The things that she's saying are reflective of her internal state and how that's progressing. She's saying that he is the life among the dead. He is the only thing that can heal her and save her, right? If everything is dead and he's the only thing that's alive, there must be something special about him, right? He has abilities that other people don't, or he has a sort of divine protection that other people don't, right? I feel like she's really thinking about him as her only option to be saved. Little does she know that he is dealing with his own stuff, and like, if he can't save himself, what are the chances he's gonna be able to save you? Verse 3. Verse 3 is my favorite. So much stuff happens, and when you listen to it, it's like very intense. It starts with the male protagonist singing the first 2 lines. All this time, I can't believe I couldn't see. Kept in the dark, but you were there in front of me. Female protagonist. I've been sleeping 1,000 years, it seems. I've got to open my eyes to everything. Male protagonist, without a thought, without a voice, without a soul. And this is my favorite line. It's very striking, but I think like metaphorically, it's very significant. Both parties sing this line, and they don't actually sing it. They speak it. They say, don't let me die here. We're gonna get to that in a second, don't worry. Then we have the male protagonist. There must be something wrong. Female protagonist, bring me to life. Okay, let's just like take a breath really quick. I feel like, okay, we all need to like do yoga or something before we get through this verse. Let's see what the male protagonist is saying. He said, all this time I can't believe I couldn't see. Kept in the dark, but you were there in front of me. It sounds like he's having some realizations. So he was in the dark. This is dark imagery. Darkness can be reflective of an internal state. However, for him, this darkness is also something that is clouding his ability to see things clearly. He wasn't able to see things with clarity. The light was switched off, so he couldn't see the person in front of him. He's realizing the value of the female protagonist, and also just like not taking her for granted, I would assume. The female protagonist says, I've been sleeping 1,000 years, it seems. I've got to open my eyes to everything. So both of these protagonists had an issue with seeing things around them, right? I think it's because they were in such an intense battle with themselves internally that they literally didn't have the ability to look outside of themselves. You only have so much energy and so much time. If someone's soul, if their internal landscape is that cold and that frozen, they're not gonna be able to really experience a lot of things in the outside world. They're at war internally with themselves. I think that's what's being referred to here, that sort of dynamic that you can have with yourself when you're feeling this way. I think it's positive that they're both able to say that they're seeing things a little bit more clearly. He is able to see her now and kind of recognize her worth and how good it is that she's in his life. And the female protagonist has an awareness now. She says, it's like I've been sleeping 1,000 years. I'm sure that's a terrifying realization, but it's very positive that she's realizing this, because once you realize something, you're able to make decisions about how to proceed and move forward, right? You have the luxury to evaluate the situation. It's an opportunity. This is like a definite call to action for herself. Hashtag yay, I'm really stoked about this lyric. The male protagonist sings, without a thought, without a voice, without a soul. He's talking about himself, in my opinion. He has been in such an intense emotional, mental, soul level turmoil that he hasn't really been able to think clearly. He hasn't been able to speak the way he wants to others or to himself. Maybe his self-talk was not what it was supposed to be, not positive. He didn't have a soul. Her soul was like somewhere cold, like in the Arctic or something, but his was just like literally missing. So none of those situations are positive. And then we have a spoken lyric by both protagonists, don't let me die here. They're both really at war with themselves. They are both aware that they need help like yesterday. The situation is very intense. I don't think they're both saying this to each other. They could be. I'm interpreting this more as both of them thinking this to themselves. They're having a realization that they could die, metaphorically, like emotionally, within themselves like this, and they don't want that to happen. When they are saying, don't let me die here, maybe they are meaning to tell that to the other person, or maybe they're just saying it. They're just making a statement. Maybe they're even saying it to themselves. It's like when you have a realization of the situation you're in and you're like, I can't keep living like this. Like, I can't move forward like this. Like I said, we don't really have a resolution at the end of this song. It's open to interpretation. This whole song is open to interpretation. We have the female protagonist still asking to be brought back to life, still in that state, and we have the male protagonist saying that they've been living a lie. There is nothing of value inside of them. They feel emotionally empty, perhaps emotionally numb. That's the end of the song. Let's sum everything up with some closing thoughts. In conclusion, this song is about two people who are in distress emotionally at a very soul level. It's very concerning. I definitely empathize with both parties. I do get the sense that the female protagonist was really dependent on the male protagonist to heal her, whether he was aware of it that much or not. Like I said earlier, it's very risky to depend on someone to heal your soul. We realize that the male protagonist was living a lie, and he in fact may not be able to help heal anyone because he needs healing himself first. Like I said earlier, there is really no resolution to this song. I think that this describes feelings of kind of dissociating from yourself. By the way, I'm not saying dissociating in a clinical sense. I'm not like a professional or anything. I'm just a person. But like metaphorically dissociating from yourself, I think it describes those emotions very well. I also think this kind of shows you that you don't know if someone can actually help you. Like, don't depend on someone to heal your soul without knowing the contents of their soul. I would hope that they both heal and are not in metaphorical like Arctic circles. And I really hope that someone gave Amy Lee's character in this song some metaphorical hot chocolate. I think that would literally help her because chocolate heals everything. Metaphorical or literal. That's all I have for this song. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and to subscribe if you haven't already. If you want. I take song requests, so please comment some requests down below. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!